Moving on, the Pope. Now, I'm not going to cover him petting the Obama's dogs or his motorcade or even his address to Congress. Why? Well, two reasons. Is a Pope petting a dog really fucking newsworthy? And two, well, because, my friends, you can Google that shit. And I'm not trying to sound bitchy, I just sound like this. But really, there's absolutely no shortage of coverage of his address to Congress. How bitter does Boehner look in that image? I mean, shit, dude. You look like you're watching a homecoming queen give her speech. Buck up a little bit. Anyway, that aside, there's no shortage of the coverage on the Pope's visit. The address to Congress, his lunch with 300 homeless people, his blessing a kid or a politician or what have you. What I'm more interested in is the civil disobedience we saw during his visit. Several groups and organizations took advantage of the Pope's time here to show their discontent. Their discontent with this broken system and call for him to take their concerns to Congress, which would mean Pope Francis is the first South American ever to get through to Congress. But who am I kidding? His Holiness may have God on speed dial, but that won't stop members of Congress from brushing off his recommendations and good intentions. That we get serious about climate change, open up our borders, or indeed use politics to quote-unquote build as one the greatest common good. Fuck common good. So brush off they did. You only have to watch 30 seconds of corporate media to see how this guy is somehow the anti-pope, a socialist, a communist, and possibly even the antichrist, all at the same time. Still, to many right-wingers' dismay, the Pope did bring these issues to Congress, further solidifying his place as most popular pope ever. And I will get to that tricky concept in a second, but first, take a look at this slideshow of actions from the Pope's visit to D.C. Action and/or organization names and issues are included in the images. Take a look. Now, that last set of images highlights that tricky little concept that I mentioned earlier. Despite what Fox News might tell you, the Pope is not, in fact, a liberal hero. And despite the fact that he makes right-wingers bash their heads into those Bibles that they like to wave around but never read, he's not a compassionate conservative either, something that Robin Williams once likened to a Volvo with a gun rack. Nope, the Pope is the Pope, and he takes a very popey stance on a lot of things, like women's rights. As one of the organizers of the female priest die-in, Janice Savor-Dushinska said during an interview with Democracy Now!'s Amy Goodman, the whole idea of marginalizing women from the priesthood is sexism, and it's a sin. And it causes so much violence in the world not to have feminine images of God. In our liturgies, we use inclusive images of God, who is, of course, beyond gender. We also say that there's so much femicide in the world, killing of women, rape of women, abuse of women within families, and also from warmongering, another domination-subordination pattern. And so we say that we need women imaging the Imago Dei with our own sacred feminine bodies at the table. And finally, we need the Gospels interpreted from women's living and dying, from our perspectives, to give a fullness to the world. Very well said. The Pope's response to this: but nope, sorry, case closed, vagina's not welcome. And while he did absolve women who had an abortion and then seek forgiveness, that being an important part of it, which I didn't, he's still against it and isn't even a fan of birth control, as he made clear by poo-pooing Obama's birth control mandate. And he likened transgender people to nuclear weapons, claiming both were unnatural and don't recognize the order of creation. Nuclear weapons, really? How about Twinkies? Assholishness aside, you could have chosen something less devastating to mankind than nuclear weapons. But anyway, my point is simply this. He is not this knight in white robes rolling toward us towards salvation on a Pope-mobile powered by hope and change. He's the Pope. We can give him a thumbs up for bashing capitalism, for threatening Milanese arms dealers with excommunication, bringing up climate change, income inequality, and so forth, but we cannot cast him as a liberal hero. And here's perhaps the most important part of this whole popey rant. There is no liberal hero. Sure, there are people out there working their asses off to make this country less of a capitalist quagmire, but there is no one who can make up for your engagement. We have to be the catalysts of change. No dude in a dress, or out of a dress really, is going to fight and win this battle for us.